Hello and welcome back to Rev Solutions. Today we're taking shelter at Lumi's Motor Cafe on the A32 in the West Meon. The weather has just decided to become all autumnal and empty from the skies, so luckily I made it here just before I got wet. And yeah, big thank you to Lumi's for letting me get under the cover and carry on with this bike review. Today we're looking at the Honda CMX 500 Rebel. This is a 2020 model, the brand new one. This starts at £5,799 from Honda. Now Honda quote this as the CMX 500 Rebel is all about freedom for all motorcyclists, particularly the A2 licence holders, with a strong liquid cooled parallel twin cylinder engine, cradled in a low chassis, and updated suspension, lighting, comfort and instruments for the 2020 model. That's their corporate spiel. Sounds quite good. And to be honest, this is a really fun bike to ride. The exhaust sounds amazing. It's got a Scorpion can on the back. It pops, bangs, gurgles all day long. Fantastic bit of kit. Now, this is a liquid cooled double overhead cam cylinder engine. It's got a nice low range grunt, bit of torque in there. So for a 45 brake horsepower bike, it does actually do really well. Engine displacement for this one is 471cc. Even though it's called a 500, it's still just under 500. Most bikes aren't the full cc that they claim in their name. The ignition is an electric start. Push the button on the side on your off side and off you go. She starts up nice and easy. Now the oil capacity for this bike, if you're doing oil changes yourself, you're looking at 3.2 litres. The max power for the torque on this bike comes in at 31 foot-pound torque, which is again really nice and low. That kicks in at 6,000 RPM, and the max power of this bike, you're looking at 45 brake horsepower at 8,500 RPM. So it's got a good range from the torque straight up to the power. It's not a bike that's going to get you in loads and loads of trouble with the police. It's just a simple, nice, comfortable ride. You're going to get to your speed limits nice and easy, and you're not going to go flying over. So that is a nice reassurance when you're riding this bike.
Right, so this is my test ride of the Honda 500 Rebel. And just as we start, it's got a Scorpion exhaust and it sounds absolutely phenomenal. That is popping and banging and gurgling away. Sounds epic. Now, I've never ridden a bike in this kind of position, like a chopper, a bobber, a Harley style. It's going to take a bit of time to get used to. And the reason I say that is because my foot, where the gears are, your toes are kind of resting on the actual gear lever, which is slightly odd, because when you want to change gears, you kind of got to move your foot back or out to the side and then change gear, like to get underneath it, because your foot's pretty much resting on the gear lever. So that is a bit of an odd one to start with. However, I'm sure if you've had this bike for a fair bit of time, you're going to get into your own position that you find comfortable with it. And when it comes to the hands and the arms, my arms are fully stretched out. I've got nothing left in them. And it actually feels really comfy, which is quite ironic, because I never thought being in this position with your arms fully stretched would be comfy. I thought I'd want a bit more of a lean forward, bit of a bend in my arms, but so far so good. Now the wind mirrors, they're fantastic. They're really good. They're one of the best wind mirrors I've ever had on a motorcycle. They're completely round and the visibility is brilliant. There isn't much vibration going through them, so I'm not having to really kind of focus on what I'm looking at behind or pull the clutch in. Now when it comes to the suspension, so far it is really comfy. I haven't had a real test of the suspension. You can feel it working, you can feel it really bouncing about, and it feels quite comfortable, to be honest. The seat is relatively hard, however, that said, it kind of holds you in really, really well. So yeah, even though I am finding it quite a hard seat, I'm not struggling with it too much, which is always nice.
Now, the wheelbase on this bike is 1,488mm. The ground clearance comes in at 136mm. It's got a really low seat height of 690mm. Now, when you sit on this bike, I've never found a bike like it, and I will sit on it shortly and just show you what it's like. Now, the fuel capacity of this bike is 11.2 litres. It's going to cost you probably in the region of £15 to fill up, but you do get good return on this one, so it's a nice, comfortable, mediocre bike for the fuel and also the mileage that you get back. The front tyre size comes in at 130 by 90 and a 16-inch rim. The rear is 150, 80 and again a 16-inch rim. So they're nice small wheels on this bike, but it doesn't make an issue with the handling. It's a nice handling bike. It gets you to what you want to do quite comfortably. Doesn't feel difficult in any way, shape or form. Now, the curb weight of this bike is 190 kilograms. It is a very, very light bike. All the bikes I've ridden recently have been over 200 kilograms. So this one comes in really, really light. It's easy to maneuver, easy to get up off the side stand and move about. So if you're going to be looking at a light bike to start off on your A2 or just in general, then this is definitely the one to look at for the weight. The front suspension, you've got 41mm telescopic forks, and the rear suspension is set up with a Showa pre-link. And so far what I found with this suspension is you can feel the bumps obviously, but it is quite comfortable, doesn't cause you any issues. You've got 2 springs at the rear, which is quite a nice look. It gives you a nice American chopper style retro look. So all in all, this bike is a really nice setup that Honda have created. You've got your American style looking bike, but with your Japanese build quality, so you've got a nice reliable bit of kit.
Now, I don't think this bike would be a long distance bike. This is more of a local pop round the shops, pop out to see your mates, go out for a ride. Now, I think a long distance journey, if I was to ride down to Weymouth, Brighton, it would get a bit tiring. I would potentially have to stop at points to kind of get my body back. But that's what it's for. It's not a long distance bike. But the sound with the Scorpion exhaust sounds absolutely phenomenal. It's what you'd expect, like a Harley Davidson, a bobber, something with a bit of American grunt to have. But this obviously is in a Japanese bike. So, yeah. Well done, Honda, for choosing this exhaust. Right. I'm down in second gear. Just pulling up into the 40. I'll open it up into 40 miles an hour now. Listen to that exhaust. Fantastic. Actually got to 40 miles an hour from 23 really, really easy. There was no problem with that whatsoever. Now, when it comes to the seating position, my right shin is resting on the engine case, which is slightly awkward because it's pushing my leg out, whereas the left leg, there isn't anything there. So yeah, it's quite asymmetrical when it comes to the legs. I don't know if that would get annoying after a while, or again, if you're just going to end up with your legs wide open. If you do end up with your legs wide open, you aren't touching the engine casing, so that might be the position to ride this bike. I'll leave that down to you.
Right, when it comes to styling of this bike, you've got a nice matte finish on the tank here. It tapers down nicely to the seat, and then from the seat it tapers outwards to the back of the seat and then shoots off to the pillion. I personally wouldn't carry a pillion on this one. It has got the pegs, but yeah, they're not going to have a very comfy ride with this because that seat is literally a few inches wide. It's not a good seat. That said, if you come unstuck and you do need to take a pillion, you've got the seat capability there of doing so. The seat here has got a nice textured design. It's got nice like diamonds all over it, which gives it a bit of a break up from the norm where it's just a plain seat. So that is a nice little feature the bike's got. The tank, it's a nice simple key tank, nothing really to say about that. Got the Honda wings down the side. Wind mirrors, nice and circular. They're fantastic. When you actually look in the wind mirrors when you're riding, the visibility is absolutely perfect. I've not had to bring my elbows in any way at all. I can see clearly. There's no vibration through the mirrors, so they are really well designed on this bike. The display is a little bit, I'd say, on the weak side. It's like a dark blue lit with a creamy white colour for the actual digits. It's not bright enough. I think it needs to have a lot more backlight in it, because when you're riding into the sun, which I did very briefly earlier, you do struggle to see your speed, your gears, your fuel. So at night I can imagine this is really well, but yeah, during the day it just needs that little bit more brightness, and I have tried adjusting it. So far I can't see any way of adjusting it. Set up on the handlebars, nice and easy. On the left you've got your high, your low beam, your pass light, your horn and your indicators. Several times I have hit the horn whilst trying to cancel the indicators, so I don't have the biggest hands in the world, so I think they're just a little bit too close. But if you ride this bike daily, you're going to get used to it and you're not going to have any issues, I don't think. But if you ride this every now and again, you might give people a little bit of a beep every time you try and cancel your indicator. On the right hand side you've got your engine kill switch, your hazard lights and your ignition start. Very simple. Moving to the front of the bike, we've got one single headlight. You've got 4 bulbs in the middle, and when they're lit they do give really nice bright I'm here light screaming out the front of the bike. It's got a nice fairing over the front, which kind of makes it look like the Harley Davidson style chopper bikes. Yeah, I like that design. It does give you that look of you're on an American cruiser, like I said earlier, with the Japanese reliability. Your indicators, they're illuminated all the time, so give a nice orange glow, and obviously they cancel out and indicate when you do select which way you want to indicate. Moving further forward on the front of the bike, you've got your 2 front suspension forks. They've got a nice cover around them, which gives it a nice springy compression look towards the front of the bike. I'm making words up as I go here. It's kind of taking a bit of a turn with the weather. I had everything planned out, but yeah, improvisation on YouTube, hey. So yeah, the front forks, they do look really nice. You got a single disc at the front, and it is a Nissan brake caliper. I've had no issues with that. Nice and easy, comfortable. You've got no problem with the front brake. It works really well, gives you good stopping power.
Now if you've driven the Honda CMX 500 Rebel, pause the video here and pop a comment in the description below. Let me know what you thought of the bike. Did you have the Scorpion exhaust? Or did you have a standard one? How did you find the seating position? So yeah, pause the video, give me a comment in the description below, let me know how you got on with the Honda. Right, so whilst we're stopped at the traffic light, very basic setup on this bike. You've got on your near side, you've got your indicators, you've got your horn, you've got your high beam, your low beam, and if you press it down on the low beam, you got your pass light and it flashes nice and easy. It's got a nice click when it does that, so you know you've pressed it. On the right hand side you got your engine kill switch, your hazard light and your electronic engine start, and that's it. Really simple setup on the bike. There's no big gadgets on here. One thing I have noticed is the display. It's a nice small display, but the colour contrast is a bit difficult to see. I was wanting it a bit brighter, to be honest. So we'll have a look, see if we can change that. But listen to this engine and this exhaust when I pull away. I wish my bike sounded this good. Listen to that. Absolutely fantastic. I love it. I'd get this bike purely for that sound. What a sound that is. Now the wind resistance on this bike, there is a fair bit. I can feel it pressing in the top of my chest. It's keeping my jacket in nice and tight to my body. There isn't a windscreen, There's a surround above the headlight. It's kind of like your front fairing as such. The horn works. Wasn't really meant to press that, but the horn and the indicators are very, very close together. Slow manoeuvring on the bike, again nice and easy. But that does sound amazing when you go through the revs. You get up to your speed. Sounds perfect. Now from what I can see from the indicator position, it looks like they're illuminated. It's kind of like the American market where you've got your cars driving around with their indicators illuminated, showing you the sides of the car. This has got the sides of the bike illuminated, which looks pretty smart. Now the key position for this bike is down by the side of the tank on the near side. It's not up top, which is very strange. But I think that's quite a nice little feature. I like that. It's tucked away out the side. So at the moment on the display in the middle, on the left hand side you've got your gear indicator. There's 6 gears on this bike. 1 down, 5 up. In the middle you got your speed indicator. Alright, let's take this up to national speed limit, 30 miles an hour. So that got there as you'd expect from a bike that isn't a performance bike. I didn't feel like it was taking its time. It took a couple of seconds to get there. So performance wise, I'd be very, very happy with this bike as my own bike. Can we do overtakes on this bike? What's it like? So far I haven't actually managed to find a rev counter, which is slightly annoying, so I want to be able to see what this red line's at. Now we are in a national and we got this car doing 35, which is really, really annoying. There we go. She can overtake really well. I didn't even get to 60 before I managed to get the overtake in. So overtaking power, she's got plenty of it.
Now the radiator on this bike, it is literally directly right behind the front wheel. So there is a big spray mark on that radiator. That said, you're going to be looking at potentially a lot of debris going straight into that radiator, potentially causing you issues. So if Honda do a radiator guard, I'd definitely consider putting that on. Maybe even R&G, they might produce something, there might be something out now that can just give you a little bit of protection, because if you crack that, it's game over until you can get it refixed. You've got a nice exposed engine down here. The engine case here, when you're riding, it does get in your way. My leg is constantly pressed against it and it's pushing out. So I've had to adjust my riding style slightly, but over a period of time, 20-30 minutes, I haven't had any further issues. So it's just again getting used to riding this bike compared to other bikes where it's all nice and sleek. The exhausts are a nice matte black. They come down from the engine bay, come sweeping up and underneath the chassis, and they come into a chrome back box. This one's got a Scorpion with a nice black tip, and it sounds absolutely phenomenal. It's popping and banging away. It's a cracking standard exhaust. I've not found a standard exhaust that sounds this good on a bike. It is just phenomenal. That would definitely be a must. If it doesn't come with the Scorpion, get that put on. You will not regret it. Further back from the exhaust, you've got your rear suspension. You've got a dual shock system set up here. It looks really nice. It works really well. I've not had any issues with the bumps that I've been going over. The chassis rail, the frame is really nice. You've got this nice black frame that just sweeps all over different parts of the bike, kicks up here underneath, in between the pillion and the rider. it looks the business. It just gives it that extra edge compared to a lot of other naked style bikes. Really well done that one, Honda. Towards the back of the bike, you got Rebel sticker, you got Honda underneath, and yeah, what can I say? It's a really nice bike. When it comes to the gearing ratio, you got 6 gears, 1 down, 5 up. It's a chain driven bike, so your normal chain main sits on this. Comes with a side stand, not a centre stand. The side stand's really easy to operate. Put your leg down, kick it with a heel and shoot straight down. There's no fiddly parts to try and find out where the side stand is. It's a really simple setup.
When you're cruising around at 30 miles an hour, second gear, there isn't any wind resistance in your body at all. It just feels really, really comfortable. Doesn't feel like I need a screen or anything. Now that's the second time I've done that. I've hit the horn when trying to get to the indicators. So for my, I say big clumsy hands, I've only got a size 8 glove. I'm hitting the horn rather than the indicator, so I think they're a little bit bunched up. So if you have got big hands, you may find this slightly too close. But maybe I'm just clumsy. So the price of this bike is $5,799, which is a pretty good price. It's an A2 compliant bike, 45 brake horsepower. I think it's a bargain for the price, to be honest. Compared to a lot of bikes out there around the similar price range, it's a pretty good deal. It looks the business. It looks badass. It looks like it's an American cruiser bike. It's like you're gonna rock up with your biker chapter. I don't think people are going to mess with you on this bike. If you're in jeans and a leather jacket, I think you're going to look the part of a Sons of Anarchy. If I had a garage with enough space for a few motorcycles, money wasn't an issue, this bike would definitely be in my garage. I do like the American style cruiser bikes, the muscle bikes. Granted, it isn't a muscle bike, but it looks apart and sounds apart. So I've been on this bike probably about 20 minutes now, and I'm not getting any achy arms, any vibration in my fingertips. It's doing really, really well. Rest in peace to those 2 bikers who sadly lost their life at that spot. Poor chaps were on their way back from Loomies, which is our local biker cafe, out for an evening ride, and then he sadly got killed by a young driver who was apparently on drinking drugs. It really, really gets my back up, people on drinking drugs. I hope for 1 minute none of my subscribers ever think about getting on the motorcycle, getting in the car whilst under the influence of any intoxicating substance, because the devastation that you bring to the people around is just not nice. And personally, I've been in a horrific crash myself 11 years ago. I was on a drive home in my Skoda Octavia with a good friend of mine, Andy, and we got hit about 100 miles an hour by a guy who was off his face on cocaine and alcohol. I was doing 40, he was doing 100, combined crash speed of 140 miles an hour, and it hurt. It really, really hurt. Luckily, we're in a good German built car, and it kept me and my friend alive. Okay, that was a bit of a bump on the road. That did. I felt that one quite a bit. But it's not to say this bike is at fault. Suspension's been good to me the whole time I've been on it, so yeah, I'm enjoying it.
The key for this bike actually goes in on the near side, just by the tank at the front. So there's nothing around the top end of the bike to put it in. It's just down here, which is tucked out of the way, nice and subtle. I think that's a really nice touch. Now when it comes to sitting on the bike, as you can see, completely flat-footed, bent-legged. This is brilliant, this bike. It's set up for those shorter riders. You're not going to have any issues getting your foot down. Even with one leg, you're completely flat-footed, nice and easy. If you are a taller rider, however, your leg is going to be seriously bent, and you might find it a little bit uncomfortable. But that said, give it a try, take it out and see what you think of it. Now for the pillions out there, you do have pillion pegs. So I'm going to try, get up onto the rear, hopefully the side stand will work. Okay, this is really uncomfortable. My hips here, I've got no hip issue, and the tension in my hips right in deep is uncomfortable. And if you got someone sat there in front of you with your legs out wide, I couldn't ride it. I could not ride this bike as a pillion. No, it's not happening. If you got flexible hips, then yeah, I don't think you'd have an issue. But for the majority of people out there, this would cause you a bit of a problem. So as a pillion, I'm going to give it a thumbs down, unfortunately. But the general riding position on this bike is really nice. It's a good chopper style, gives you that American feel. Feels good. So if you haven't already, click on that subscribe button, hit the bell for your notifications, give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Really simple run through of the Honda CMX 500 Rebel. Really appreciate everyone's subscription to this channel, and we'll see you next time. Ride safe, stay tuned.